Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. All right. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. Associated Students recognizes and acknowledges the first people of this ancestral and unceded territory of Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians that is now occupied by our campus of California State University Northridge, honors their elders past and present, and the descendants who are citizens of the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians. Associated Students recognizes that the tribe is still here, and we are committed to lifting up their stories, culture, and community. I'll now hand this off to our government secretary for the roll call.
Sorry. Vice President Khan. Here. Senator Aronson.
Here.
Senator Fregoso.
Here.
Senator Gavino.
Here.
Senator Geminiano.
Here.
Senator Harris.
Here.
Senator Miyoshi.
Here.
Senator Nunez.
Here.
Senator Olgun.
Here.
Senator Perez.
Here.
Senator Pulliam.
Here.
Senator Radionov. Senator Weda.
Here.
Senator Toledo Carranza.
Here.
Senator Tran. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madeline. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any motions on the floor? Senator Pulliam.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Miyoshi. Is there any discussion on the approval of the agenda? Vice President Khan.
I move to amend line item 8D, striking Yvette Tran's name and adding Leslie Ponce's name in.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Miyoshi. Any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, then we can take the amendment to a vote. If there are no objections, this amendment will pass unanimously. Are there any objections? Seeing none, then the amendment passes. Now we will move back into the discussion as the motion as amended. Is there any discussion for the motion as amended? Seeing none, then we could take this to a vote. All in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please raise your hand. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes for August 26, 2024. Is there a motion on the floor? Senator Aronson.
I move to approve the minutes from the AS meeting on August 26, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Toledo Carranza. Is there any discussion on the approval of the minutes from August 26, 2024? Seeing none, then we can take that to a vote. If there are no objections on the approval of the minutes, they will pass unanimously. Seeing no objections, the minutes pass unanimously. Thank you. We will now move on to special presentations. Our first one being with Dr. William Watkins, presenting the time, place, and manner policy. Go ahead, Dr. Watkins. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you all. I want to thank our president and vice president for inviting me to come and visit with you this morning and have a conversation. It may be the first of several that we have about the new CSU policy on time, place, and manner. It's an interesting situation that we find ourselves in terms of dealing with what is a system-wide policy that we then have some pretty significant responsibilities here locally to implement. I'm going to try to spend about no more than 15 minutes going over the policy framework and et cetera, and some of the responsibilities around the campus so that we can have a maximum of time that you will be able to ask some questions. I want to first point out some important resources for all of you to make sure that you are completely familiar with. And I'm not distributing things that are available to you online. So the first is the interim system-wide policy. You can find this at calstate.edu, freedom of expression. Have any of you gone to that website and taken a look? Okay. When I come back, you'll all have your hands raised. We talked about when we brought you into office, the importance of really joining in your leadership capacities to help implement the policies and procedures of the CSU and the state of California and our own campus. Part of what I'm trying to do is to position you better to be able to do that with a pretty important policy piece. And so please take the time to go to that website, take a look at the interim system-wide policy. You'll also see there what's described as a CSUN addendum. Actually, there's a drop-down navigation. You can take a look at what every campus has described as what they're going to do to implement the policy in a couple of prescribed areas on their individual campus. We'll talk a little bit more about that. You'll see a set of FAQs. In fact, you may find there the system's responses to some of the questions that you might have for me here today. There's a video there that seeks to inform students in the space of why do we have time, place, and manner policies? You know, what are the issues relative to free speech, freedom of expression, and constraints upon that through time, place, and manner policies there. You will see a link to the student conduct process, and that's relevant in the sense that if there are violations of the policies or any of the campus policies, from a conduct perspective, it's through those kinds of administrative procedures that we hold students accountable. You'll also find there the CSU non-discrimination policy, and that's an important policy because it talks about various areas of discrimination and how the university really attends itself to those complaints. The Office of Equity and Compliance. Any of you ever heard of that office before? Okay, a few of you. Okay. That's the office that when there are complaints alleging that there is some form of discrimination on the basis of religion or race or sex or et cetera. It's also our office where we deal with Title IX issues. That's the office that's going to be responding to those kinds of things. So as people might ask me, well, William, if you saw so-and-so, what would be your conclusion about whether or not that's a policy violation from a non-discrimination perspective? There's an office that will make that determination, okay? All right. And so want to make sure that you have insight into those really key resources there. There's one other reference that I want to draw your attention to, and some of you who are programmers for your clubs or organization really know how tremendously helpful our Matador Involvement Center is, and I want to thank Asia as she's welcome. Asia, everybody give Asia a cheer there. Yeah. But the Matador Involvement Center is where we want to make sure all of our clubs and organizations are going to schedule events and activities. It's not just a narrow scheduling process. It's also an opportunity for the university to communicate things like the time, place, and manner policy and make sure that as students are planning their activities, that they're doing so in a way that aligns with appropriate university policy. So where do I start in terms of beyond those basics? And I thought I might start from sharing with you a response that I gave to a Sundial reporter who's picked up on the story and was asking questions, quite appropriately so. The reporter asked what prompted the issuance of the directive that I'm here to talk to you about today. And I said quite candidly, I had some of the same questions. Why are we now getting a system-wide directive in this area? After all, on our own campus, we have a time, place, and manner policy that has been here since 2017. Policies generally guide the development of procedures for most of our students when it comes to making use of external spaces or dealing with preparation of demonstrations, et cetera. That's happening through our Matador Involvement Center. Last year, by and large, the activities that happened here were scheduled. We knew about those and we interacted with those as we moved along. But, you know, it wasn't the case that on every campus of the CSU, I mean, you pay attention to the news just like I do. Some campuses really were the site of destruction. There were sites where there was overnight encampments, et cetera, that were unauthorized. There were things happening on campus that represented a sense of threat and fear on the part of some of our students on various campuses, a host of different kinds of concerns there. And so as a part of the 24-25 state budget process, there was a trailer bill. And in the trailer bills, for those of you who are involved in this kind of space, typically come along after, for example, the approval of the budget and tells agencies, here's what you need to do in conjunction with implementing the goals and objectives of the budget. And so there was one that was referred to it as a campus climate trailer bill that directed the CSU and also the University of California. And have any of you been reading about these new policies at all as they've been happening? Okay, it's coming out publicly now. So it directed the CSU to develop a system-wide policy clarifying guidelines for protest and expressive activity within the context of recognizing the importance of freedom of expression, while also complying with federal and state laws, campus policies, protecting student and employee safety, and ensuring access to educational opportunities. In other words, we were told that we really needed to move as a system to articulate a clear message to all of our students and employees about really what were the expectations in that area. We're further directed to send a communication before the start of the semester to all of our students and our employees, communicating these policies and et cetera. I trust all of you students received the communication about that. All right, very good. And so all that's been accomplished. The system policy is the one that we're here to discuss today. The policy framework, again, provides that there's some things unique to campuses that are included there. And, you know, this is really, I'm on the front end of moving about the campus, talking to various parts of the campus community about these policies. Thursday, I will be speaking with the Faculty Senate to share with our colleagues there how we're going forward. You see in here, this is a digression in some ways, but important. The policy is described as interim policy on. The reason that it is dubbed as interim is that we have a practice in the CSU system that when we introduce major policies that have an impact potentially on terms and conditions of employment, operating practices that affect our employees, then we go through a process that's called meeting and conferring with our labor partners to discuss impacts of those policies. And so it's not unusual for policy to come out as interim until we conclude that process of having those conversations with our labor partners. And that happens on a system-wide basis. It's not a local campus negotiation there. So that's why it is that we are dealing with it on an interim basis. Another question that came up was whether or not there's a conflict between freedom of expression as embodied in the First Amendment and policies that set boundaries on freedom of expression. Time, place, and manner policies come out of quite a body of law that has been litigated in the courts, where the courts have determined that reasonable, what we call content neutral restrictions can be placed on expressive activity through the limits of time. That is to say, when activities occur, place where they occur on a campus, and the manner in which those activities happen. So that's where we get time, place, and manner from. When you're doing things, how you're doing them on the campus as a part of the time, place, and manner piece. Again, prior to the CSU implementing its policy, Cal State Northridge had its own policy that was drafted in 2017. And really those policies have given reference to the procedures that are made use of in our Matador Involvement Center and other places that schedule spaces here on our campus. We're asked the question of what will we do when in fact there is a conflict between what we articulate as the policy and what we're experiencing on the campus. And any of you who interacted with us in this space last year, and when I say us, I'm generally talking about all the beautiful people from student affairs. There's a whole long line of them here behind me, who are out and in spaces on our campus when things are happening. It's why it's so important that events and activities be scheduled through our office so that we can have an awareness of being of those things and be out in those spaces. But you know, we're a learning organization at our core. And when we find that students may be engaged in activities that are in conflict with policies and procedures, there's an absolute possibility that students might not even know that there is such a thing, okay? And so our intent will always be to approach our, unless we're dealing with something where there is a life or death threatening situation right in the spot, we're going to approach students, and it will be student affairs professionals, not university police, who will be the front line of that communication. So, you know, I hope that, and that's not new. That's not something that we fashioned just for the purpose of this. Again, if you have been on this campus for any length of time and for the decades that we have as an institution created space for protest activities on our campus, that's how we intend to go forward. That's how we have gone forward in the past. This whole notion of content neutral means that we deal with whether or not there are policy violations, irrespective of what someone's individual political perspective is. We will not be moving around the campus and showing up for one organization's situation and challenging or holding people accountable, and in another not do anything about that. So it's really important to have that understanding. So what is the mindset of the campus as we begin to navigate our way through this? It's just as I shared with you, that we will approach our students, our employees with a level of respect that they intend to abide by the policies as they know them, that when they're not doing that, that we'll take the time to try to educate them about those policies and encourage them concerning the consequences of not doing so. You know, it's important that we do say that the university will not ignore demonstrations that threaten the safety of students and employees, nor will we permit the disruption of access to educational processes of the university. So, you know, this is really not just hanging something out there, but, you know, if activity happens on our campus and students are not able to be educated here, students are not able to be safe in their comings and going, you would expect us to step forward and try to address those situations. And hopefully you concur in that and would share in any thoughts that you might have. So the CSU policy has certain specific things that may come a little bit new, but there's also prohibitions that are contained there that are not new at all. You know, the fact that you can't have a firearm on the campus is that's been around for a while, thank God. But there are other things that are part of the new policy that I do want to point out to you, just a few of them. One is this notion of being a violation to disrupt or interfere with the speech of others. And I think that comes from, on some campuses, there were speakers who were trying to talk and express their truth or their perspective about things, and they may have been shut down by counter speech. We believe in counter speech, but we believe that if we believe in freedom of expression, then people need to be able to express, okay? And so it talks about prohibiting that. It prohibits camping and demonstrations overnight. Our policies have always prohibited overnight lodging, camping on our campus for just a whole host of reasons and safety and et cetera there. But it is very clearly an effort on the system's part to speak to encampments and to call those out very early on as not being acceptable on our campus. Unauthorized temporary structures where you're building things, entering the campus during non-public hours. So we've always had, you know, some hours of operation here on the campus, but we've been asked now to speak to those in clearer terms, do a better job of communicating those to the campus community. So the hours of operation for our 6 o'clock a.m. I know all of you are here at 6 in the morning, but 6 o'clock a.m. And we thought, we've had the experience where students have had to get here really early to prepare for some kinds of things there. So we're hoping that that gives enough time for that to occur. And the campus closure is at 11 p.m. We do not expect that individuals enter the campus after 11 o'clock, okay? It doesn't mean that if you are at the Soraya for an event that started at 9, 10 o'clock, you can stay through the event and then you'd be expected to depart the campus. Or you may be walking through the campus on a pedestrian pathway. You can walk through and go to the other side of the campus. But this is really to begin to talk about some hours of operation for the campus so that we can have some clarity about who needs to be here. I mean, as a public institution, it's not only you and I, students and employees who come to this campus. There are also individuals who have no affiliation with the campus who come here. And so this is setting some boundaries relative to those individuals. Katie, you need to tell me when they cut it off and go to questions here. All right. And then this other thing that is a big point of concern, I think, for students is this whole notion of wearing masks or concealing identity. And the policy prohibits the concealment of one's identity within the context of some violation of law or policy on the campus. It doesn't say that you and I, to protect our health and safety, are no longer able to wear a mask. I'm going to wear my mask if I need to wear my mask for my safety. But if we have an encampment, for example, happening on our campus and individuals are masked, and that's probably what you saw, and that's probably what gave rise to our including this in a system-wide policy, that would be a prohibition there. That's actually a part of laws that are already on the books relative to the concealment of identity and the commission of a crime. That's kind of elevating things to a pretty high level, but that's the thinking behind that particular inclusion there. A couple of more things here. When you go to the campus addendum, you're going to see a couple of things. Number one, you'll find out that my position, Vice President for Student Affairs, I am identified as a designated university official responsible for our campus implementation of the policy. So you as leaders here, as you find that there are questions or concerns or recommendations, you have access to me, no matter the issue, to be able to help as we implement on our campus. You will find there that the campus has been identified in 3 different brand new ways. You'll see a list of what are called public spaces, or you'll see a lot of spaces external to, particularly external to interior buildings. And they've been identified as being public or limited or non-public areas. Public areas, as you can imagine them being our large exterior lawn spaces, et cetera. These are spaces that could be reserved or they could be the site of spontaneous activity that's happening there. And these are places where we would expect to see demonstrations and protests and et cetera occurring, okay? In the limited areas, and here I routinely use the university library as an example, we generally think of libraries as public, but they would not be places where we would find permissible demonstrations, rallies, assemblies, those kinds of things. And so there are areas around the campus that are identified as limited. You can reserve them for programming purposes, but they are not amenable spaces for protests and those other kinds of activities. And then there are non-public spaces. You can think of your own offices as senators. Your office is not a public space. Your classroom is not a public space. In most interior areas of buildings are not public spaces. And this was an effort to try to communicate to students and others who are trying to make use of our campus spaces that are appropriate to the kinds of things that they're trying to undertake. You'll also find on our campus addendum how you can go about reserving those spaces. Okay. I spoke about spontaneous activities. This is a public place, things do happen, but I encourage people who are having events and activities, if you want to make sure that the space that you want to use is yours to use during a particular time, you need to reserve that space, okay? Which makes it available to you. You'll also find there on our campus addendum, really a reiteration of our current policies regarding campus signs and posters and flyers, lawn signs, A-frames, billboards. You know these as really being the implements of marketing and advertising of our activities on the campus. Those things are referred to there as well. There's also an expectation by the CSU, and we've talked in our addendum about how to go about this. But there's an expectation that when someone files a complaint about what they perceive to be a violation, let's say they're alleging that something they see is discriminatory, and they file that with the Office of Equity and Compliance. And let's say that office says, well, this may be unsettling to you, but this is not a violation. Okay, this is work that they do, not work that I do. There's an expectation that we nonetheless be concerned about the upset and the feelings of our fellow students. And so to the extent that we possibly can, irrespective of, the outcome of that kind of complaint, we want to be concerned about our fellow students and employees and find out whether or not there are ways, reasonable ways in which we can provide resources that will allow them to have comfort in functioning within the campus community. I'm going to stop there. It's probably been beyond my minutes here, but those are the broad outlines of things. And so I start from saying I'm willing to come back, as we begin to formulate questions, but let's see if there's some right now. President?
Are there any questions from the board regarding the presentation? I would suggest asking questions now. Dr. Watkins is the best person to ask these questions about. Senator Gavino.
Hi.
Hi.
You mentioned a kind of process of meeting and confirming with the CSU's labor partners on this interim policy. Do you know if there's any intent or willingness at the system-wide level to take in student input on these policies?
That's a pretty good question. So it's called meeting and conferring. It's a part of labor relations in our state and I think across the nation with public unions. My understanding is that's a conversation between management and labor. So I've never been a part of anything like that, but I think the representatives of the CSU, which would be management in that regard, and representatives of our labor partners, our unions, those individuals are in the discussion, and then we hear what comes out of it. I think we always hope that whenever that stuff is happening and students are not in the room, that students are being thought of, and that is also a consideration. But to my knowledge, there isn't a student voice at that table. Yeah, good question.
Thank you for your question, Senator Gavino. Is there any other questions? Senator Aronson.
Hi, Dr.
Hey,
Watkins.
good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to ask a quick question with regard to the policy on masks and face coverings.
Yeah.
So I remember you mentioned basically there's a regulation on face coverings in the event that a person commits a crime. My question is, what would be the policy on maybe something more like a gray area, suspicious activity? If somebody maybe hasn't committed a crime, but they're maybe not affiliated with the campus, or they seem to maybe be engaging in some suspicious activity, what would be the policy with regard to face coverings at that point, so that we could prevent somebody who maybe is about to commit a crime from being able to wear a face covering?
Yeah. So the policy is the policy. Whether or not a particular incident or a set of behaviors violates the policy will be highly dependent upon the facts and circumstances of that situation. There's really no way in advance for me to tell you how we're going to determine something like that. So if that came out as a complaint against a student or group of students, whoever is complaining would need to describe what's going on. We go through a process of reviewing the facts and circumstances and arriving at some determination. That's true with everything that I'm talking about. This isn't a matter of just kind of walking somewhere, this is a that kind of a situation. What the facts are on the ground, and you, as you can imagine, it's not uncommon that there are debates about these things, okay? And certainly as we hold students accountable through the conduct process, there's due process there. It's from the equity and compliance, all of these spaces have due process. So what it is that we see is important. I make myself available for individuals to share things that are of concern to them, irrespective of, some super analysis. I mean, there may be something that you saw that you want to talk about, and I might have some insight that I can help you understand more clearly what was going down in that situation. But all of these things will be dependent upon the facts and circumstances. We're not hiring an army of new staff. Asia would probably love it if I were to give her a whole new group of employees. Maybe not. But you're not going to see people walking around the campus, who are now the TPM monitors. I mean, we're not, the state isn't a budget crisis. I mean, we're not doing that. We're talking about within the normal course of our use of our campus and our spaces, what it is that we see and observe, and those things that are our policies that surround those things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Yeah,
Yeah.
Senator Pullman.
It was mentioned that somebody could make a complaint and then it would be followed up upon. I know that you're a busy person, so other than you, who could that person, like if they have a complaint, contact?
You'll contact me. Or not to be flip about it, we make time for those things that we have to address. Number one. Number two, any of you or any member of the university community or not in the university community can always go directly to university police, directly to the Office of Equity and Compliance to file a report. Okay. So you always can go, and particularly in as much as they're often the entities that are going to do the investigative stuff. If you go there, there's sufficient coordination. If something's of concern regarding a student group, et cetera, we're going to be made aware of it. The other colleague of mine who is always in these spaces with me is Dr. Shelley Reynolds Bischoff. I'm sorry, Shelley. Where's up? There you go. You know her. Reach out to her, and then Freddie Sanchez is the other colleague who's there. But they're a group, Kari Hunter, in this space, Asia Butler in this space. All of us are spending quantums of time trying to familiarize ourselves with what this is requiring of us, and trying to make sure that we are supporting a learning community in a positive way. So you can reach out to any of us and we'll make sure it gets back. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Senator Miyoshi. And then this will be our last question.
Okay.
Checking the policy
Mhm.
on section 8B, where it says no camping, overnight demonstrations, overnight loitering furniture, or large household items. This reminds me an awful lot of the kind of pro-Palestine protests that happened in other universities,
Mhm.
including UCLA.
Mhm.
And what I recall from those is that the police were heavily involved in that protest, and it led to pretty extreme cases of violence against students. And my concern is, if these are explicitly prohibited,
Mhm.
then what is the response that CSU is allowed to use on people who are demonstrating in this way? Because if the police are allowed to be involved, or any kind of violence is permitted or even excusable,
Yeah.
then this would potentially lead to the same scenario where anybody trying to protest on this campus could find themselves at the same risk of being violently stopped by police for trying to demonstrate for a cause that they truly believe in. And I'd also like to ask if whenever we're in overnight demonstrations where most activities have pretty much stopped on campus,
Yes.
how would CSU justify the complete restriction of overnight demonstrations or even encampments in general?
Okay, that's about 5 or 6 questions. So your core question is whether or not university police get involved with these things. So as I shared earlier, the face of our interaction with students, we would hope will always be initially staff and faculty. Faculty were tremendously helpful in navigating the experience of students on our campus. Most of our students have a tremendous regard for our faculty. And so we use every resource available to have a discussion about what's going on and at what point in time we're dealing with a potential policy violation. We're not wanting anything to become escalated so the police have to deal with it. Okay, so that's why we want to plan in advance. We want to be very clear with each other about what the rules of the road are there, so that again, there are no questions about that. There may be situations that just are destined to be a violation of policy, and then we'll have to deal with those situations as they present themselves. We don't want to see what you saw, and we didn't have what you saw at UCLA. We don't have to speculate about our campus community. We experienced our campus community here. And my hope is that this year will find us equally capable of having spaces for students to be heard in ways which align here and which do not cause our campus community to become what you saw.
Thank you so much, Dr. Watkins. And if anyone of you guys have any other questions, Dr. Watkins is in our spaces a lot. And we are very grateful for it. And you guys can all find his email very easily. So,
All right.
yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Watkins. We will move on to our next special presentation with CSUN Ready and the University Corporation. It's going to be with Rick Evans, Heather Cairns, Philia Militante, and instead of Kathleen Hayes, it's okay. Instead of Kathleen Hayes, it's going to be Ashley Singleton.
Yeah. And do I have a clicker?
Yes, it's right here.
Oh. Thanks to the Associated Student Senate for allowing us to come and present on CSUN Ready Affordable Course Materials for Undergraduates. This is actually my second presentation to this group. Let's see. Okay. So let me start by saying CSUN Ready is what's known as an equitable access program. That's a model specifically related to the sale and distribution of required textbooks, ebooks, and courseware. Now we're not going to use the term equitable access in our information or our marketing materials, but for the sake of today's discussion, you'll understand why the industry is using that term to discuss this type of model. So the way it works is students register for class. First I want to say there's 2 types of equitable access programs: immediate access and equitable access. So 2 types of access programs, and I'll explain those in a moment. But the way they work is students register for class as normal. All required learning materials are then automatically populated, and then those learning materials are automatically delivered to students. The goal is at least 2 weeks prior to the start of class. You can simply opt out, or if you choose to stay in, your student account is then charged. Let's move on. So again, I mentioned that there's 2 types. There's immediate access, which is course by course implementation. So I'm sure many of you have or have had an My CSUN Digital Access class, or we call them MCDA. That's course by course. The average discount on MCDA is about 40% off of new retail. Then equitable access is the term being used for campus-wide or cohort-wide implementation, which has a larger savings, closer to 60% off of retail. It's also more convenient. And so what we're going to be talking about today is it would be offered to all undergraduates. Let's see. So, but first on our immediate access program, My CSUN Digital Access, we first introduced MCDA in 2018, and we've seen continued growth. Where last fall, we were up to almost 600. Today, Amy from the CSUN campus store told me that we are at over 800 classes. So we've seen the growth. So the time is right to talk about transitioning to equitable access. But first, I want to talk about a student survey that we did on immediate access on MCDA. We surveyed our MCDA students, and students chose in that green bar convenience or easy access is their number one choice for what they liked about the program. The second bar in blue was having the materials as soon as possible was their second choice. And then affordability was still high at but it wasn't as high as number one or number two. With sort of transitions to, we see at other campuses and on this campus where faculty and staff assume affordability is the only thing that we're talking about. And that's just not the case, where in fact students are saying less bureaucracy and more convenience is the thing that they like about these programs. The survey also asked, when given the option, what type of class would you rather register for? 73% of our MCDA students said they'd rather register for an MCDA class. I'll point out the 90%, only 10% of our students drop out of, when I say drop out, opt out of the MCDA program. So let's talk a little bit more about equitable access and CSUN Ready. Again, campus-wide distribution has larger cost savings than immediate access or just buying your books outside of these programs. And that's what CSUN Ready is about. It'll apply to all undergraduates, more specifically, the undergraduates that don't opt out. So the general notion around this program is it drastically increases the percentage of students obtaining all of their learning materials. This is why I became so passionate about the program initially when I learned about it. And then I learned about these other things like the program increases affordability, provides access to materials a couple of weeks prior to class starting. And then there's more convenience, less bureaucracy and barriers. These programs are also proving to have an impact on grades, retention, and the equity gap. And so with that, our team has met several times with Dr. Michael Moore from the University of New Hampshire, and he's devoting his research to these types of programs. He did a study of 2-year institutions. The total combined population was 23,000 students where he looked at the data. Now, granted, a 2-year institution is different than a 4-year campus like CSUN, but we could make some general assumptions that it somewhat correlates to freshmen and sophomore. He concluded that those that did not opt out but stayed in the program, the red bars, achieved a 16% higher rate of completing their respective courses. For Pell eligible, that increased another percentage and a little bit to over 17%, the delta. The pink bar are those that opted out of the equitable access program. The red bar are those students that stayed in. So, bottom line, his study shows that when students have all of their required books and courseware, they do better. So we looked at San Diego State and UC Davis, who have successful equitable access programs for the last 3 or 4 years. Both campuses analyzed they analyzed, and prior to their equitable access programs, less than 30% of their students had all of their required learning materials. And so we can assume that our students are in similar or even more difficult circumstances. So my hypothesis is less than 30% of our students get all of their required learning materials. Now, that doesn't mean only 30% get their required learning materials. we can assume that a greater percentage gets some of the required learning materials. We also know, based on some of the other research at San Diego State, that there's a percentage of students that get none of their required learning materials. So UC Davis was the first in the country to implement this program 4 or 5 years ago. Now more than 80% have all the required learning materials, up from 30%. San Diego State is seeing almost the same level of participation. Pomona and Sonoma implemented the Equitable Access Program last year, and then just in the last couple of weeks, Long Beach and San Bernardino have also implemented this type of program. So these programs are growing, not just in California, but across the country. So I want to expand on the notion of convenience to students. It's really bigger than just convenience. We've learned that students who succeed are those that are able to navigate through the chaos of going to a big university like CSUN. In turn, we need to make it easier for students to get their learning materials. So as CSUN Ready, the goal is to help minimize these types of barriers, and instant books are one less thing students would have to struggle with. So let's discuss some features and issues surrounding CSUN Ready. Let's see. Again, it'll be available to all undergraduates. Now, I don't show it here, but the average cost of learning materials for a class, and this isn't brand new retail. This is just the average cost if you rent or buy used or buy retail. It's $100 a class. So that's $400 for 4 classes, $500 for 5 classes. And what I'm showing here is with CSUN Ready, we're talking about approximately $1840. We still don't know the exact price until census is in, but about $1840 per credit unit. That's $220 for 4 classes or $250 for 5. So that's a little bit more than if you were to get your learning materials, all your learning materials. Other features, materials I've already mentioned would be available to the student prior to the start of class. Students can use their financial aid to cover, to pay for the cost, and then opt-out can be done up until census date, which is typically later in September. Okay, so the ease of opt-out has been a point of discussion, probably the top point of discussion. And with me is Heather Cairns. She's the corporation's Associate Executive Director. And Heather, do you want to talk about this? Next slide.
Yes.
All right.
Great. Good morning, everybody. So ease of opt-out is really something we want to be sure to communicate how clear and transparent the process is. We're also going to be making a video just to emulate that further. So with CSUN Ready, it's campus-wide, so we'll be able to communicate more broadly, whereas with MCDA, it was kind of limited to just emails, and we know that's not really effective to communicate properly. So again, these opt-out option will be in links throughout the marketing materials that we'll be preparing. Next slide. So student-focused marketing, we're working on a really robust communications plan. So just some highlights here about the ways in which we'll communicate broadly across campus. And again, the ease of opt-out will be in those materials. Next slide. Here's just a quick snapshot of the webpage that we're developing. This is where students can find information about the program, any other resources connected to the program, and also an FAQ page, which we'll be continuing to update throughout the semester. And then you'll see on the bottom right, you can go to the portal and opt out there. There'll be a link taking you to that place to opt out. And student focus groups, really important component, which we're working on right now. I just want to give a thanks to Katie for helping us coordinate lots of groups of students to come together. She's helping us to reach out to what we've listed here on the screen, a real broad array of students so we can get feedback from all different students. We're going to have conversations in the next couple of weeks. We hope to get 5 to 6 focus groups together. We'll be scheduling those via Zoom to get more participation. And then, of course, we'll have an incentive for those who participate, a $40 gift card either to Matacash to use in dining locations on campus or Campus Store if that's your preference. We also have an ad hoc group of faculty that we're working with, and they also will be offering the communication to their students if they want to participate in the focus groups. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Rick.
Thanks, Heather. All right, almost done. Next steps. Gather the results from the student focus groups that Heather just talked about. I put AS Senate resolution up there. I would humbly ask the Senate to pass a resolution in support of CSUN Ready. And then we'll be able to continue preparing for the implementation of the program for fall 2025. I just point out a couple more slides. Barnes and Noble has equitable access on 300 of their campuses, and they conducted a student survey where almost 90% of their students said they would recommend equitable access to their fellow students. 86% said they were better prepared. One of the final points I'd leave the Senate with is the goal behind CSUN Ready is to create something that's for our students that will benefit our students, which is why your voice in support of CSUN Ready is so important if the campus is willing to take the steps necessary in order to implement this program by fall 2025. A couple testimonials. Former President Cheyenne talked about he was supportive and discussed the aspects of convenience and streamlined business practices. Paige discussed that it'll be beneficial to students. And then last slide, Carlos Fuentes is a celebrated alum and a TUC board member, former Associated Students president. And he discussed how he thinks the program will provide added confidence with students and families as they navigate their class schedules. And it just so happens I ran into Carlos, and there he is. Carlos, do you want to take just a moment? I mentioned he's a TUC board member and former AF president, and he and I have talked a lot about this program.
We have, but I just came to get my planner. And I thought this was a cooling station, so I stopped by and here I am. The first order of business, you guys, because you need to know this. You know, William Luckins was also a former student body president, right? But he's being inducted into what is considered the Hall of Fame of CSUN, called the Distinguished Alumni. He's very humble not to do that, but he's being inducted next month. Can we give him a round of applause? I can't let that go without at least this board, because he's not only the years of service he gave as a student, but now you obviously know how long he's been here serving the campus. So what I want to do is take you a little bit on a journey and to really solidify what we're talking about here. Back, I'll say it now, because I could probably be your grandparents, but back in 1976, I presented a proposal to the Senate. And that proposal was based on some research I had done, because USC and UCLA had had some rapes and assaults. And I brought this research, and I had colleagues just like you talk to your friends. Oh, Carlos, we'll support it. No problem. Put the resolution out there. And what it was, I'll summarize it real quick. It was a proposal to really up the safety. I was proposing that we walk students from the library to the parking lots because, and I presented this research. These is what's going on at the campuses around us. We should probably be preemptive. Take a look at this. I asked for $18,000 for jackets, flashlights, walkie-talkies. So back then we had football. So we had these massive football players who signed up to be part of the program, and they would walk students from the library to the parking lot. And we had horrible lighting. Picture these light standards with 2 lights that went out in the parking lots. So everybody, was behind it. My colleagues, you guys. So I thought it was going to get favored. Well, little to my surprise, campus police shows up. This is our job. What are you guys doing? Well, oh my God, what happened? And it scared my colleagues. I had to reduce the proposal down to $6,000, yellow jackets, that said escort service, probably not the politically correct name now, but, and it would walk students, and we had to narrow it down to very late at night and really intensify it during finals. Well, here, yeah, and I take you on this journey because I had an epiphany that people will always react saying, or more times than not, react saying no and O before they know KNOW. The reality was, this to me was a no-brainer. We're protecting our students. Yeah, but you're infringing on our silo. This is our job. Oh, okay. So it had to be a lesson of, well, you need to know KNOW, what we're trying to do for our students, because we're student leadership. And what that caused for me was understanding that you have to educate people. You have to let them know, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Nobody's out to get anybody. Nobody's out to take anybody's job. I'll cut to the chase. That program went on. Campus police fought it. It came back that they funded it the next semester. After that, it became emergency buttons on every corner to turn around and say, and recently, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, they were still doing it. And it was, and to me, that's like, well, that's one of the legacies that was left here. And it was important though, like I said, the epiphany I had was no, KNOW, before you say no and O. And so I take you on that journey because here I am again, fighting for students. I guess the journey never stops. Fighting for students of color mainly. I also sit on the Diversity Commission. Okay, we brought in a consultant who broke down everything, interviewed students, and this was mainly targeted at Black students. How are we going to get them from orientation to graduation? Because the numbers were horrible. And he basically told us what Rick kind of summarized. He told us in a nutshell, he says, well, how many of you think it's about grades? What grades what high school they went, what? No. You know what it is? How well you navigate this campus, how well you know where to go to solve a problem, like you guys do, right? What website to go to, what you just asked, that question you just asked Dr. Watkins. Who do we go to? He said, me. Well, you know that, your student leaders, all those people. Wait, I got to go to work, I got to park, I got to do all these things, and then I have to do that? It's tough to navigate through getting through your 4 years. And what we found was if students don't find those resources to navigate that campus, we will lose them in the first 4 semesters. Meaning they won't get to be a junior. They'll give up. This is just too much. Not only do I have to get through class, I have to know how to change my courses, go to this website, go. Sakabo, I'm done. And now I bring you full circle. This program here is about removing those barriers, taking away those things that you have to do. And so I'm going to urge you to get to know KNOW, this program, before you say no and no to this program. Because you're going to hear, oh, they're out to gouge us. Oh, they're just trying to take more. They're trying to make a profit. I guarantee you, I would not be sitting on the TUC if that was we're a nonprofit. Everything comes back to the students. This is not about gouging. Everything we try to do is for students, is for this campus. And you need to know that. You're going to hear, yeah, well, the food's too low. You know what? We're just trying to get through it so we can keep people on board. But please, I'm going to urge you, I'll say it again. Get to know KNOW before you say no. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos. And then I will say, just for the rest of the presentation, if we could just stay a little more relevant to CSUN Ready. But it was very nice. I will say that. It was awesome. Just because we are want to be considerate of everyone's time here. But thank you.
I told Carlos, could he speak for 2 minutes? I think that was about 2 minutes, wasn't it? Sorry, Carlos. Okay, I'm done. I just want to point out Ashley Singleton is Vice President for Access with Follett Corporation. She's come out specifically for this meeting today to respond to any questions that or issues that we want to discuss. So with that, do I need to hand this back to somebody?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna also provide my input because I sit on the ad hoc committee for CSUN Ready and I have been all summer. Thank you, Rick, for your presentation and just obviously the rest of the TUC and whoever's here. I just want to provide my perspective to the board. Obviously, I don't want to impose any biases, but as a student I'm the only student in that committee. So I think it's really important that you guys know what I'm hearing, because obviously we understand that there's multiple perspectives to these types of initiatives, what faculty is seeing, what the university corporation is seeing, what the administration is seeing, what students are seeing, there's 6 other things I could say. So I think it's obviously the most important what students are seeing, because this is an initiative that will directly and mainly impact students and, their courseware and how much they're paying and all of the things. So I don't think you guys mentioned it, but I just do want to mention because I think it's very important. I think one of the main concerns, and you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys have heard differently. One of the main concerns about this initiative is that as opposed to MCDA, it would kind of be more CSUN-wide, and it would not affect more students, thinking that it's a negative thing, but it would be applicable to more students and more courseware. Is that correct? Okay, great. And then at some point when I'm done talking, I'll probably say one more sentence. If you guys could just pinpoint that main difference, just because I think in my book, that was the biggest thing to note. And then the other thing is obviously the opt-in, opt-out part. I think that we all know as a board, I think we've all been here for MCDA, the My CSUN Digital Access. And I could say for myself that I have personally forgotten to opt out of My CSUN Digital Access. And a lot of that is on my part, and a lot of that is on the fact that I probably thought that the opt-in, opt-out process could have been shown on the portal as opposed to just emails, and stuff like that. And obviously that's not fully on you guys, that's on us as students to also tell you all of that. So my question is, Rick, if you can answer the key difference in terms of exposure of these course materials and essentially the amount more students that it would affect.
Is this on? Yeah. My CSUN Digital Access is course by course. And so if you're in 2 MCDA classes and you want to opt out, you have to opt out twice. The thing about CSUN Ready is it applies to all undergraduates. So all undergraduates, we expect about 15 to 20% will opt out. So the 80 to 85% that stay in, all of their required learning materials will come to them. By being the whole undergraduate class, by it applying to the whole undergraduate class, allows us to do much more marketing on the ease of opt-out. I mean, I've cracked the joke before that one of our marketing materials will be CSUN Ready opt-out now. We just want it to make it so much as easy as possible to opt out, and it will be as easy as possible. And I'll let you talk more if you want to. Do you want to add to anything here, Ashley? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So the biggest difference is that right now for MCDA, your faculty members are choosing to participate for their digital materials. So if faculty haven't chosen to be an MCDA, those materials aren't a part of the program. For CSUN Ready, for all undergraduates, it will be all materials. So whether that's ebook, courseware, or your physical materials. More students will participate. Faculty are still choosing the content, so that will always be up to your faculty member. But we're impacting more students, all courses for undergrads, which also allows us to lower the cost and to give you a flat rate. Whereas today with MCDA, it's based on the individual course material for that individual course. You don't know what that price will be until you enroll in the class. And with the CSUN Ready program, you will know ahead of time for planning purposes what that flat rate is, because we're doing that kind of like if you go to Costco or Netflix, right? We're applying the cost of all the materials in a flat rate, predictable rate, and able to lower the cost for all the materials more than we are able to do on a course by course basis in MCDA. That help.
Quick question, just clarification point. Just because I know it was still on discussion, if it is going to be a flat fee or if it's going to be a per unit fee, can we clarify that?
Yeah, in fact, I think you were there when the committee was talking about a flat fee versus per credit unit. So right now, we were looking at about $18.40 per credit unit. I just made the assumption a couple of years ago that CSUN would prefer the per credit approach. Turns out Pomona and Davis have just done the flat fee. So our committee talked about, well, maybe we should talk to the students and see what they like. Now, it's not gonna, we don't think it's gonna just be, oh, flat fee or per credit. What we did learn the other day, Follett looked at some of their data, 14% of students tend to opt out. I am so sorry, I keep saying that, opt out of the per credit unit cost, and only 9% opt out of the flat fee. As Ashley was talking, the flat fee, so we haven't decided yet. Originally last year, it was like, yeah, we're gonna do the per credit. I didn't even bring up the flat fee, but there is some, as Ashley mentioned, like Netflix. My mother she's watching it right now. And so I watch it a couple of times a week. We pay the same amount. So there's something appealing about that. But there's also some logic behind the per credit unit. So what we're talking about here, flat fee would probably be around 250, maybe a little bit less per semester. If I'm only taking 4 classes, it would be 220. Again, what happens when we start having this conversation, I'm not talking about right now, but when I have it with other groups, we tend to focus so much on affordability. And as Carlos just spoke, it's so much more than affordability. Although that's a big part of it, it's about breaking down the barriers and making things less bureaucratic for students. I took too long again, didn't I?
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. I don't know who was first, guys. Can you tell me who was first? Okay. Senator Gavito, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Some classes don't have course materials. Would a student say they're taking 15 units, but only 12 of those units have course materials? Would they be charged, if you were going at a per unit rate, would they be charged for the 15 or the 12? And then
That's a great question, and Ashley's going to help me answer that. But the short answer is no, you would be paying for the full 5 classes. So you'd be paying, yeah, what was it?
5 classes, it would be about that.
Yeah, I didn't put that up there, what, 260 or something like that. Even though you're only taking 4. So again, if affordability is your driver, you might want to opt out. If we go to flat fee, we don't even have that question, right? So there's now and again, I'll let Ashley add to it, but by applying it to all classes allows us to keep the cost down. In a sense, some classes are subsidizing a lower rate, but again, if affordability is all you're looking at, you might want to look. There's still a very good chance, because I said, if you get all your learning materials for 5 classes, it's going to be $500. So even if you got one zero cost class, but you're only paying $260, you're still doing better. Ashley, do you want to add to what I'm saying?
The only thing I would add is that you would want to make that evaluation based on the cost of those materials outside of the program, as Rick said. So if we apply that average of $98 or $100 per course, in your example, you'd be outside the program, you'd pay $400, right, for your 4 classes with material, that 5th being free. But in the program, you'd be around $260. So yes, they're still charged for all of those in the per credit hour unit, but still might be the most affordable option. Otherwise, we would recommend that you opt out in that particular semester and you make that decision each semester based on the content. The other piece is that that typically gets asked in tandem with that question is, what about an increase in open educational or no course, zero cost classes? We evaluate the price every year so that as faculty are choosing different content, if there is a growth in OER, which we often see, that will actually lower the cost in the future year. So more OER, more low-cost options for your course materials will influence the savings in the future.
Senator Perez, did you have a question?
Sorry, I totally blanked on my thought. So I kind of just had a question about like where, how we ended up on the per credit option. Was your data, I guess, were you looking more to part-time students or full-time students, especially since for most to graduate, even though we're looking at full-time being 12 units, a lot of students do need 15 units per semester to graduate, and it would be more expensive for the per unit option or per credit versus per semester. So what, I guess, numbers are we dealing with in correlation to enrollment with that?
I think the first part of your question was, why did we go down the per credit route?
Yes, in correlation to what, if it's more favored to part-time or full-time students.
That was just my own stupidity. I just assumed that per credit made more sense, right? I was like, well, if I'm taking 4 classes versus 5, I thought it made more sense to me. Right now, I am completely agnostic on, I can see pros and cons to both. With regard to enrollment,
so when we started looking at, I'm going to give Rick a little credit here. When we started looking at CSUN a couple of years ago, the per credit hour model was far more common with these programs, far more common. And that has shifted in the past couple of years because the way that we and other companies, whether it's an institutional program, institutional school bookstore running their program, or one of our competitors, Barnes and Noble, we have begun to model this differently, exactly what you just said, right? In a 4-year university, typically the student rate, the flat rate per student is a better deal for the students, and the credit hour rate is not, and it is because of that full-time to part-time breakdown. CSUN, again, looking at the data 2 years ago, CSUN did have a higher percentage of part-time students that made that a good deal for students at that particular point in time. Again, things can shift, things can change, but I think the biggest thing is that it's just far more common to have a flat rate now. And I think it's smart to look at both because you want to benefit the greatest percentage of students, so that you're asking the students who are going to evaluate, who are going to opt out, right? You're asking the population, the lower population of number of students to do that action. So we're benefiting the greater to start with, because that's really the purpose.
Thank you. And then as for opting out, I know you referred to the deadline as probably more late mid-September. Does that kind of align with, like, say a student drops a class, are we aligning those dates with the periods up to which you do have to drop a class? And is it refundable? Is it that kind of?
Yeah, so as a student adds and drops, we say all the materials will be available prior to the start of class, up to 2 weeks before the start of class. That's for the students that are registered at that point. As a student adds and drops, their materials go with them, right? So we'll drop materials, digital materials will disappear from your learning management system, and the newly registered courses will appear in there. And we do determine that last day to opt out. It's typically the census date, which is determined in complete partnership with CSUN, and after those add drop periods, so that we're getting through that entire period. But the important part is that until a student opts out, they retain access to those materials. So while they're making that evaluation, while they're adding and dropping courses and getting those materials, they have access to the materials for those few weeks. Whereas if they're waiting to purchase because they don't know what they're going to be registered in, or because they're waiting for their next paycheck, they don't have access to those materials and are still attending class. And that's part of that getting access to materials first day of class, so that as they're making those decisions, they're not falling behind in class. They have those materials. But yes, we determine that date in partnership with CSUN.
Thank you. And then last question. As for the teachers who are opting out to participate in the program, do you know if the majority are planning to provide their own materials, expect students to pay for outside material resources? Kind of what does that look like? And if so, is it less affordable in that case?
So currently in MCDA, faculty choose whether they participate in the program. For CSUN Ready, and there's just as much conversation that's happening with this group is also happening with the faculty groups. So faculty who teach undergraduate courses will participate in the program. They don't opt out. Students choose to opt out of purchasing the materials. So any materials that a faculty member chooses will be provided in the program. If a student opts out, then they can purchase them outside the program separately.
So all faculty will be participating
For undergraduate
for
courses.
undergraduate. Got it. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. I should have done a speakers list. Oh my God. I don't know who raised their hand first. I'll go on this side. I feel like I saw Senator Miyoshi's hand from the start. Is that correct? Please be honest. Okay, go ahead.
So I'd like to say thank you very much for continuing to make efforts to make educational materials as affordable as possible, while also respecting the agency of the student to opt out of whatever systems you offer. My question is, it seems like you were stuck on deciding between a credit-based fee or a flat fee, but if the goal is to ensure affordability, could you not treat the flat fee more like a maximum cap to the price, so that up to a certain point, each unit is correlated with the fee that you pay, but once you are taking more than a certain number of units per year, the fee will no longer rise any higher than that, because there's usually a sort of physical limit to how many units a student can take in a single year. So I don't think it would be so unreasonable or exploitable for a student to take who's taking a lot of units for any particular reason to sort of benefit from a sort of savings, because the max fee ensures that they don't pay for like maybe the extra 3 units if they're taking an 18-unit workload instead of a 15-unit workload.
Senator Miyoshi, could you restate your question?
So my question was basically, could we not do a credit-based fee while treating the flat fee as a maximum cap? So people who take more than, say, 15 units will only pay for up to 15 units of material.
Thank you.
So we do offer a model that's similar to what you're saying. It's called a credit hour cap. So we don't cap the credit hour at the flat rate fee, but we do cap, and we can look at any of these models, but we do cap the credits at a certain rate for exactly the purpose that you just stated. So we do not want to disincentivize anyone from taking more credits. So I think in short, yes, we do have a blended model, as well as a couple others that we are more than willing to run and look at and I think present. I'm speaking a little on behalf of Rick here, but
I was just mentioning to Heather, who's sort of in charge of helping to facilitate the student focus groups. And again, this is going to be one of our primary points. And you've just brought up a really good point. So I was mentioning to her, let's introduce that model too. We don't want to get too complicated. We want to talk about per credit, flat fee, but then what we just talked about, I think is something we should look at. Absolutely.
Thank you. Everyone, sorry, please don't hate me, but please, can you write your questions down and give them to me? And then I will ask them on behalf of yourselves to the committee and to Rick. that is me saying that I probably won't be accepting more questions right now. Unless it's insanely urgent. And Tuche, you keep having your hand up. Okay, you're the last. Yeah, go ahead.
Personal privilege to please.
Oh, yeah, granted.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Why do you still have your hands up, guys? I'm saying, can you write? Okay, this is gonna be the last question. Nick, please go ahead.
So, regarding digital course materials, I have a computer science background and I have a couple comments on that. So ebooks containing digital rights management software, also known as DRM, are a threat to personal and societal freedom. I recommend reading computer scientist Richard Stallman's position on the dangers of ebook technology. We should not be building more infrastructure for a harmful product.
I don't know how to respond to that. Again, the program, we're going to make available all the learning materials that faculty adopt. And so they have academic freedom to adopt whatever they want. One of the great things about this program is faculty in the past have maybe been reluctant to adopt something more expensive because they are being cognizant of prices. Now they don't have to worry about that. As far as the issue you're speaking to, I'm sorry. I think that's outside of my realm.
Right, question then. This program does include digital course materials.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
could.
Yeah.
So this is in the realm of this program.
So it's digital first. Yeah. We're seeing every year more and more digital materials being made available to the students as the primary source of learning materials, the courseware to students. Yeah. I mean, that's the reality. Are there other?
One more.
Oh, go ahead.
One more question. So has this issue ever been, have you ever read about this issue or considered this issue?
I've read about the issue, but again, academic freedom. Faculty are going to adopt what they're going to adopt. I'm not the person that can impact your concern. Simple as that.
Sure.
Thank you, Senator Wade. Okay, so if anyone has any other questions, I do sit on this ad hoc committee. Please write them down. I'm not saying this because I don't want to hear your questions. I really do, but I'm, as the chair, I have to be considerate of the time so we can fulfill the agenda. Please write your questions down. I will ask them, I promise, and I will get back to you.
And I want to thank the Senate for your time. I really appreciate it. Encourage you and others to encourage other students to attend these focus groups. Also, I'm hoping that the Senate will take this up as a resolution in support of CSUN Ready. This is a huge program that's going to make a huge difference on our students. And this body, I think, has a louder voice than anybody else. If you vote in favor of CSUN Ready, the program will most likely definitely move forward for implementation fall 2024. Me and my team and the Follett folks are at your disposal. If you have any other questions or concerns, just let me know. And thank you again.
Thank you, Rick, and the TUC and Ashley. Okay. Thank you all for being very attentive to our special presentations. I appreciate it. This is very important stuff that we're presenting. I wouldn't, have added them to the agenda if they weren't important to you. But we will move on to open forum. So open forum is intended as an opportunity for any member of the public to address the Associated Student Senate regarding any issues affecting CSUN students. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes each to speak. Please sign in using the clipboard for minute recording purposes. Is there anyone here for open forum?
Hello. Good morning. I'd like to take this time to address the time, place, and manner policy on behalf of CSUN Students for Justice in Palestine chapter. Thank you, Dr. Watkins, for being here. So as students, we are, to be gracious, unsure that this new policy has our interests and our safety at heart. In fact, as it stands, it is clear that the time, place, and manner policy will lead to heightened repression as an admittedly targeted measure against students' solidarity with the Palestinian people, as they are facing currently the 76th year of their genocide. So in the face of such blatant injustice and crimes against humanity, we do not believe that there is a proper time and place to denounce genocide. To be silent is to deny the humanity and gravity of atrocities happening against the Palestinian people. And when genocide is reality, we must denounce it at every time, at every place, and in every manner. The things this university actively takes pride in as an HSI with students of diverse cultural, social, and economic backgrounds, these very characteristics that have come to define CSUN as an institution were too fought for at the wrong time, at the wrong place, and in the wrong manner. So as you deliberate the adoption of the interim policy, we urge the governing body to consider, among many of the policy's issues, just how this is an affront to the values the CSU system holds dear, as well as the basic human rights of free speech, free expression, and free protest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to clarify really quick. Us as associated students, we do not affiliate ourselves with the administration in terms of the implementation process unless we are asked to and unless we say yes. But that's fully CSUN and Dr. Watkins' office and the Office of Equity and Compliance thing to adopt it. And we are here to represent the students. So we appreciate you coming here and telling us this. Is there anyone else here for open forum?
So I'm here to speak about homework. And so as of now, students have to pay money to do their homework. And I'm sure most of you are aware. But if you speak to adults like your parents and previous students, they'll be very shocked and they'll say, what do you mean you have to pay to do your homework? And as you know, now you have to buy the publisher's homework package, which will include the homework and sometimes quizzes and tests that the professor would choose to also use. And this is a big shock to a lot of older students who have never purchased their homework because they could purchase books. And so the library has a low income student option where you can borrow books or have other low income options, but there's no way around to any low income options when you have to pay to the publisher's website so you can do your homework and get credit for your homework. So there's no way around that. So it almost seems like the library's attempt to have low income options for students is totally not feasible. Like a joke in a way, because you have to pay the publisher to do your homework. And so it gets worse because there are cases where professors have opted into the publisher completely, and the professor comes and lectures, and the professor does not need to touch a mouse at all because the homework is graded on the publisher website, the quizzes are graded on the publisher website, and your midterm and final and tests are graded on the publisher website. So the professor gets to come in and just lecture and then doesn't have to click a mouse at all because everything graded will be done by the publisher. And it gets worse because there are times when you listen to a lecture and you listen to the professor lecture and you're in class and you open the publisher's website to do your homework and you're like, wait, this doesn't really match what I learned in class. It's kind of similar, but not really. Well, good thing I have unlimited tries, like what some people like. So I just keep trying it over and over and over until I get the right answer and I'll get the grade. That's called rote learning. That's where you do something and you're not really learning what it actually is. We could study that in child development, but that's rote learning where you're not learning. And so that's also happening with the publisher. And so this looks a lot like doctors and big pharma. I don't know who's getting kickbacks, but in the field of big pharma and doctors will prescribe a lot of medication more often to patients. And then the big pharmacy will see that and they will give the doctors a speaking fee to come and speak at their corporation one time for like $100,000. And so I don't know which professors are getting kickbacks or not, because some professors, you have to pay $129 to go to that class, to do the homework, and to do the quizzes. And so I don't know what's going on, but it looks very shady to me. And things weren't like this before. Before you can buy a book, you can borrow a book, you can rent a book, you could borrow your friend's book, you can make copies of a book, you get a PDF of a book. But how can you do any of this at low-income options that the library supposedly has if you have to buy your homework online to do your homework? If you have to pay for homework, how is that an option at all? There's no way around that. So it's looking very suspicious. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to respond. Jeffrey, right? Or do you prefer Jeff? Jeff, great. So for you all to know, Jeff actually sent everyone an email regarding his issue. And I got a chance to speak with him at the office. And I also got the chance to forward your concern with the University Corporation. And Rick, who was just here, actually forwarded the issue to Amy Berger from the campus store. And we were able to get some answers. And I actually had a meeting with them and got some answers too. So I'm going to be responding to you in this capacity. So once it was explained to me, I was understanding it. Obviously, I don't think it's great. But essentially what you're paying for is professors signing up with, I think a common one is like, forgot the name. It's like, it's Pearson and then there's something else. It's like, no. Oh my gosh. He had said it. It was like McGraw-Hill. So McGraw-Hill, I actually did a class with that and I had to pay for the textbook electronically. And through paying for the textbook, I was given my homework and my tests and whatever. But essentially, it would say that it is required for you to purchase your textbook so that you could complete the coursework and the homework and the tests and the quizzes. And then that is fully up to the jurisdiction of the professors. And if they decide to establish that type of courseware through these websites, because ultimately it's just whatever they think is fit or they deem fit for the course. So a lot of them do choose McGraw-Hill as one of an example. Yeah, you essentially like are required to purchase your textbook so that you can take the tests and quizzes because it is online, an online platform. And that's not something that the TUC or the campus store has control over, I believe. It is just up to the professors if they decide to use that courseware. So that is my answer, Jeff. If you have any follow-up questions, you know where our office is. You have our emails. You could please send us a follow-up email. You could send me a follow-up email. But thank you so much for coming here and stating your concern. We appreciate it. Okay. We can move on with our agenda. Hopefully I answered your question too, by the way, or your concern, at least to some degree. Okay. We can move on to the rest of our agenda. I think the first thing is reports, and it's mine. Yeah. Senator Olgan.
Permission to recognize, please.
Granted. All right, we'll move on to reports, starting with my own. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being so receptive to the special presentations. Again, very important stuff, especially CSUN Ready. I mean, they're actually both insanely important. CSUN Ready is very important, as well as time, place, manner policy is really important too. So I really hope you guys took some information away from that so that you can help your constituents. First thing I'd like to say is welcome, Victoria. Victoria Ramos is our Chief of Staff. She's been officially onboarded, and I'm so excited to work with her and finally have a Chief of Staff because it's a lot of work. So thank you, Victoria. I'll be setting up some trainings with her this week, and I'll be spending a lot of time with her this week, even though I really don't have any time this week, but I'm going to try my best. So the first thing that I've been doing this past week was I've been a part of the search committee for the Assistant Vice President for the Office of Equity and Compliance, which comes at a very ironic time of the time, place, and manner policy to be established. So Dr. Watkins might have glanced on what the office does, but the position in general oversees and spearheads CSUN's mission of fostering an environment for all members of our campus community to feel safe and free from discrimination, harassment, and retaliation in any form. And CSUN has designated the AVP for the Office of Equity and Compliance as its campus Title IX coordinator to monitor and oversee issues of sexual misconduct and gender-based discrimination and harassment. So I have a very privileged position of being on the search committee for that, and I actually did we did some interviews last week for that, and I was a part of that every morning, super early in the morning, but gotta get in the habit. And then my next thing is we actually had our first cabinet meeting last week. We couldn't get everyone there, but it was as best as we could. I wish you all could see the cabinet calendar and how insanely, and I don't even know, it's like otherworldly to try to schedule that. So I'm trying to hope that we can get it weekly and at a consistent time. But it was a great meeting. We kind of just had everyone give their reports. And then I set some like foundational information for the rest of the year or the rest of the semester, so that we all are trying to start on like similar footing with each other. Next thing is that I had the chance to meet with Dr. Watkins as well as Vice President Khan. We do like to meet with Dr. Watkins pretty periodically, as well as always prior to meeting with President Beck, and we'll be meeting with her next week, or it now may be the week after. I don't know if you saw the updates, but it might be getting rescheduled. So yeah, that was a great meeting. And then I had the chance of attending the managers meeting last week, which is featured with all of the managers from every AS department, kind of just hearing their updates and seeing how AS is doing from the managerial perspective from every department. And then I had personnel board, which I chair, and we approved of a bunch of new position openings and all the stuff that personnel does, which is fun. CSUN Ready meetings, I've been a part of that, as you can see, with the TUC coming and presenting. I will say this as a side note. I really hope that you guys, if they come again, please grill them. Like, you represent the students, and we do what is in best efforts of the students. I'm a part of that committee, and I do help the TUC a lot with trying to get opinions and feedback from as many students as possible. But I do that because I'm the representative of the students. And I hope you all feel the same way anytime the TUC comes here and presents an initiative, as well as any other campus entity comes and presents an initiative, because also considering the fact that this initiative could cost our students more money, when you all may not feel like it's necessary. But again, that's totally up to your opinions and jurisdictions. The TUC has the bandwidth of just doing it. They don't need our opinion, but they want our support because they see the importance behind all of it, obviously us as the student representatives, to support such an initiative. So if they were ever come back, or if they mention the resolution again, ask as many questions as you'd like. I know, I'm sorry, I cut it off short, but write down your questions, give them to me. I will ask them. I will even see if I can get some of you guys in those committee meetings. It's very important. And yeah, okay, thank you. Next thing is that we had an election engagement meeting spearheaded by our Associate Vice President for Government and Community Relations, Shefali Mistry. And she had a meeting with a bunch of our campus partners, including some of us in AS. And it was just discussing how CSUN is planning on, promoting the elections, or making sure that we have voter engagement. It's accessible, it's transparent for our student body and anyone that wants to come on campus and attend our voting booth. So that was a great meeting. I will be reaching out to, on the, what's the word? The theme of elections. I will be reaching out to the District 40 election candidates on behalf of Chair of Legislative Affairs Sarabia and her initiative of wanting to have a forum/debate with the district representatives. I'm just waiting on Shefali to clear my email and say it's good to go. Then I will send it out. Just on Friday, I was able to train our standing committee chairs in place of the Attorney General. The Attorney General is usually the one that does the trainings, but shout out Chair Aronson, Chair Jimeniano Aragon, Chair Gavino. They all have reports today for the first time. How exciting. I remember my first chair report and I was like saying too much and I did not need to. Probably I'm doing that right now. But to go off of that, I will be trying to attend all the standing committee meetings this week. They start this week, everyone. So obviously, as well as your office hours still happening. Standing committee meetings start this week. They're going to be on Tuesdays from 5 to 6 is internal affairs. Wednesdays from 5 to 6 is external affairs. Thursdays from 5 to 6 is university affairs. I have told the chairs that I would like the discussion about meeting times to happen in terms of changing the meeting times, because we do have advisors that sit on those meetings and 5 to 6 is outside of their working hours. So we just want to see if any time during those assigned days end up working for everyone. So look out for that. Our first farmer's market is tomorrow. James was here. I think he was going to say something in open forum and then the presentations were too long. Oh man. But I knew that he would say something like that. First farmer's market is tomorrow from 10 to 2 at Matador Square. I have a lot of meetings this week, but next Senate meeting, I will talk about them. And then some last little things. Madeline here, as an angel, she sends out a lot of emails for us, for Iman and I. And at the end of every email, it says, if you guys have any questions, please ask Katie, Iman, or Denise. And I think that you guys still ask Madeline the questions, which is okay. I understand. It makes sense. She sent the email. But just remember to send them to me, Iman, or Denise, obviously, whenever applicable, or whoever is more accessible to you. Just make sure to remember that. Next thing is that partnering with marketing, shout out Ariana, Ruby and I think sort of Denise have assisted in creating a social media request form. So there's QR codes around the office on a flyer. So if you guys want to see anything featured on the CSUN AS Instagram and maybe the CSUN leadership too, Instagrams, fill out that QR code or scan that QR code, fill out the form. We just want a more streamlined process for what is being requested to be posted on social media. Makes it easier for us, makes it easier for our image, makes it easier for marketing. Marketing already has a lot to do. They do marketing for the whole organization, not just leadership. So this is definitely going to make it more streamlined and obviously hold everyone more accountable if something's not posted or communication's not followed up, whatever. And then online with that, Ruby has let me know to share that she will be filming and taking some content for introductions for cabinet and Senate for our leadership Instagram. So if you guys get emailed or approached by her, just look out for that. It's probably going to be along the lines of that. And then I think that's it for me. Stay cool. I think this is the last day of insanely hot weather. Luckily our ACs are fantastic in the AS office. Thank you so much, USU. But yeah, have a great week, everyone. And if you ever have any questions or want to chat or whatever, just let me know. Thank you. Are there any questions on the president's report? Seeing none, we can move on to the vice president's report with Vice President Khan.
Good morning. We didn't see each other last week, so I'm going to start from 2 weeks ago. Welcome week was a hit. Thank you to everybody who tabled. This is the best way to engage with constituents. Maybe not the best, but it's one of the best ways to engage with constituents. So thank you all. Meet the Clubs was also a highlight. We tabled there. And thank you for everyone who stepped in to table and prevented me from getting heat stroke again. That was very, very grateful for you guys. On the committee side, Data Governance Committee met, and the key action item was allowing donors to access student demographic data for scholarship purposes, which has not been done before. Usually third parties do not have access to student data. And I did approve this due to the fact that there were several necessary safety measures in place to protect confidentiality. So no single student could be traced to any data information that was given. And they demonstrated this, and I was satisfied with how they filtered it and made it accessible to these third parties. And this is for scholarship purposes only. I also had the privilege of participating in a listening session with the new executive director of CSAC, the California Student Aid Commission. She's new. Her story is very inspirational. She comes from a background where it's like she understands aid need for college students. And we talked about FAFSA and the CATA application because it changed this past year. And she is looking for more feedback. So if you have any feedback, I know I reached out to some people, please come to me so I can pass that along and talk to her in the appropriate manner of any of your concerns. I also met with the chair of system-wide affairs. I am the vice chair of system-wide affairs for CSSA. And this one's focus is time, place, and manner. So we heard Dr. Watkins's presentation. You heard what I said last week. Take all that information and give me your feedback, please, so I can relay that. We also, like Katie said, we had an election engagement meeting. And if you are interested in helping Associated students during this election season, please reach out to the chair of Ledge Affairs, or there is a lobby core meeting today happening in the admin conference room, correct? And I know a lot of people are in the office, so stop by, listen. If you want to get involved, get involved. It's a great way to increase voter engagement with students. At the Academic Technology Committee, there were several important issues discussed about academic technology, and one of these were CSUN Ready. And the faculty does seem to take a very negative stance towards CSUN Ready. So if you have feedback next time we meet, as one of the students who serve on that, I will be kind of giving that student perspective to the Academic Tech Committee. And yeah, whether that's negative or positive, please give it to me. There was also talk about costs of online resources, like we just heard during open forum, such as qualitative statistical software and ebooks. And we're pushing for better engagement with the online resources already available. So if you have any student input on how to get that word out there, that we have access to things such as Adobe and Microsoft Suite, please let me know, because this committee is very, very faculty heavy. So a lot of that perspective isn't there. And I will move on from that now. A few reminders is that Senate check-ins do begin today. If you have not received a calendar invite saying that you have a check-in with me, you need to fill out the doodle poll that Madeline sent. And I believe she resent it today to anybody who hasn't. And thank you, Madeline, for organizing this. If you haven't already reached out to your dean, now is the time to do so. I am here to help. I have a template. Come to me. Laptop policy for Senate meetings. We have all of our resources on our laptops, I understand, but when someone's presenting, please. We need to pay attention to these types of things, and we want to be respectful of the people giving us their time. Please sign up to a table at the farmers market. Matador Nights is in the USU on Friday, really cool event that goes on, another way to engage with campus. And I just want to close by saying, if you need any help, guidance, want an ear, I'm here 100%. Shoot me a text, shoot me an email, and I'm always here to advocate for you. So yes, please use me as your resource. I hope that the first 2 weeks of school were great, and I'm wishing you all a happy and productive week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Khan. Is there any questions on the Vice President's report? Seeing none, we can move on to the Chief of Staff's report with Chief of Staff Ramos.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to do a quick little introduction, and then we'll get started on the reports. Hi, hello. As you know, I'm Victoria Ramos. I'm a senior, and I major in history. As your new Chief of Staff, I oversee the presidential cabinet. I look forward to working with all of you, and I'm super excited to see what we accomplish this year. So, yay. Thank you. Alrighty, so cabinet reports. This is a little long, so please bear with me. I'll get through this as quickly as possible. So the chair of diversity, equity, and inclusion will meet with his 6 committee members to discuss plans for enhancing DEI accessibility with a focus on improving the DEI webpage. Their aim is to create a comprehensive directory of DEI resources and professionals across CSUN, simplifying how students can access and understand the specific support each resources offers. And he will also meet with the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to align our strategic goals for the year and ensure our initiatives are effectively coordinated across campus. So that's for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as for the chair of legislative affairs, they have completed their voter registration marketing, and it will be posted around campus. Be on the lookout for the flyers to register to vote and share it with your social media page. She will also continue to work with Denise on 3 events for the semesters, these events being the 2024 Vice Presidential Debate Watch Party on October 1st, 2024, now in possible collaboration with Professor Kephart. I apologize on how I pronounce that. Okay, perfect. For the Communication Studies Department. The second event being Politics Are a Drag on September 30th and Big Party on November 4th. First Lobby Corp meeting is September 9th from 1 to 2 p.m. And she will also meet with the Chair of Legislative Affairs for CSULA for possible collaboration opportunities and idea exchanging. And she will also meet with the Women's Resource Center and Queer Studies Department for possible collaboration on politics or a drag. And Cabinet Member Sarvadia, I apologize how I pronounce it, Saravia, thank you, will be attending the upcoming California Student Aid Commission meeting in CSULA September 11th through 12th. If anyone is interested in that, if anyone's interested in what will be discussed, please let her know. As for the next week game plan is emailing local officers to be part of the big party, finalizing details for politics or a drag and VP watch party, meeting with CSUN Government Relations Office and start voter registration initiatives with Lobby Corp members and CSUN Act. As for collaboration, if any senators would like to be involved in planning events or have any voter initiative ideas, please don't be afraid to reach out. As for the last one, chairpersonal and communications, their accomplishments and timeline this week is to complete interviews, plan intro videos with Senate and cabinet members, so please be on the lookout. Pick member of the month and headshots, member of the month gifts, and schedule first comms meeting, promote farmers market, and post Senate headshots. And their next week's game plan is to make appointments and have meetings and continue interviews. And as for collaborations, it's weekly meeting with Ariana on Mondays and communications meetings to be decided. Thank you very much. That's about it.
Thank you so much, Chief of Staff Ramos. Any questions on the Chief of Staff's report? And also, oh, yes, Senator Toledo Carranza.
It's not a question, but point of personal privilege.
Granted, thank you. Just for all of your informations, Victoria will be giving all of Cabinet's reports. That's not even all of Cabinet's reports. So she will have a significantly longer report than a lot of us. Maybe, I don't know, unless I find ways to be more concise. But keep that in mind, and please just remember to stay attentive. Yes, thank you. We will move on to the Chair of Finance's report with Interim Chair of Finance, Ponce. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, I hope you all had a great weekend. So first I'll start off with the account numbers. In STAR, there is $182,460. We are still waiting on unassigned contingency. In clubs and organization assigned, there is $15,000. In the Phil Fund, there is $15,000. In clubs and organization travel, there is $7,871. And as far for this week, I met with former Finance Chair Tran to discuss the Chair of Finance role. I also met with Dr. Nakia Williams to discuss student clubs and organizations and the Matador Involvement Center for club re-registration. Aside from that, I attended my first personnel board meeting. It was great to see how the personnel board meetings are run. And for next week, I plan to continue to work on STARS and supplementals. I also plan to meet with IT just to discuss annual budget forms and the timeline for the annual budget. Aside from that, I've been working with accounting and Denise to get caught up on STARS and learn more about the process. That's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, I don't know if I should say interim or chair. I'm just gonna say chair of finance because you signed a 30-day appointment, or I signed way one. But thank you, Chair of Finance. Ponce, is there any questions on the Chair of Finance's report? Seeing none, we'll move past the Attorney General's report because we still don't have one. Onto our standing committee reports with Senator Alvaro or Senator Geminiano Aragon from External Affairs. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So as President Karen mentioned, we had our trainings on Fridays. So today we will be sending our agendas. So please be in the lookout for that. Just as a reminder for External Affairs Committee, that's on Wednesdays, 5 to 6 in the Executive Board Room in the USU Soul Center. All of the information will be in the agendas. And just FYI, we'll be choosing for vice chair. So if you're interested on what are the duties and responsibilities, please reach out to us too. Thank you.
Perfect report. Any questions on the External Affairs report? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Internal Affairs report with Senator Gavino.
Good morning. This may be a little repetitive, but yes, met with President Karoum on Friday. It was really productive. We discussed certain duties of the chair and procedures for the Internal Affairs Committee. I'm looking forward to our first meeting, which is tomorrow in the USU Executive Boardroom at 5 p.m. Agenda will be coming out later today. We won't be discussing any legislative referrals at our first meeting, but we will be electing a vice chair. And I will say this probably a lot throughout the semester, but to the people who have been assigned to committees, the senators who have been assigned to committees or Senate representatives to other committees, take a look at your codes on the AS Wiki, read them over, make sure you know what it's about, and if it needs any amending. And if it does, send a legislative referral to Internal Affairs. But that's it. Thank you.
Another perfect report. Is there any questions on the Internal Affairs report? Thank you. Then we'll move on to the University Affairs report with Senator Aronson.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Wow. This is so awesome. Again, I just want to say thank you, everybody, so much for trusting in me and electing me. And I just want to do everything that I can to make sure that we make a lot of great changes. I want people to look back at, oh, wow, 24, 25. They did so much cool stuff. Who did that? Oh, my God, it was that guy, Brandon Aronson. That's so cool. Yeah, so Senator Gavino and Senator Aragon sort of took everything that I wanted to say. I don't need to be repetitive, but anybody who's on University Affairs, I want to get the ball rolling as soon as possible. I have a lot of connections, and as Senator Gavino said, we won't be discussing any legislative referrals on our first meeting. But we will be electing a vice chair, and that's a great position. So everybody on my committee, please just get into contact with me. I want to explain what the position is. And yeah, I just want everybody to be really excited. You know, I know it's a little bit of extra responsibility, but it's a great responsibility, and we're going to be able to do a lot of great things. I'm really confident that we're going to do a lot of great things. So please let me know if you have any ideas. I know we're not doing legislative referrals until next week, but it doesn't hurt to just, if you have an idea, you know, get it in. The form is really easy to complete. Or even just tell me if you have maybe a starting idea, and then we can work on something together. Yeah, I'm really excited. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Any questions on the University Affairs report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the Interim AS Executive Director report with Tim Shapansky.
Good morning, everyone. Happy pumpkin spice season. I hope you're all enjoying that. A couple updates from me. Last week, we started tryouts for men's and women's soccer. There were 150 students that tried out. This week, most of the dance teams are doing their tryouts, and the rest of the teams will be trying out next week, and then we'll get the roster solidified. If you are interested in going out on trips with Outdoor Adventures, they pretty much sold out the first week, did about $17,000 worth of sales. They do have some space left. It's very limited, so get yourself there. If you came in off of Plummer this morning, you probably noticed that all of the big things over the Children's Center are down, so all of the scaffolding has come down. It doesn't look like a construction zone, except in the back. But they're doing the drains this week, and then we should be done with the construction there. And updates on the numbers inside the center. As of last week, there were 90 children that were in the facility, which gives us about the space, I think, for about 15 more to come in. And that could also be in the process through paperwork and doing checks with our office coordinator. And we do have a couple of recruitment processes going on inside the Children's Center. So hopefully I'll have some updates for you soon. Have a good day.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions on the interim ASO Executive Director's report? Seeing none, we'll move on to the University Advisor's report with Asia Butler, but she seems to not be here, so we will move past her report, actually, to the Faculty Advisor's report with Dr. Veda Ward.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend and that you were in shade and cool, and at least you're all here. It's always great to see you. As we go into week 3, everyone is establishing, I hope, a routine for your weeks, where you're going to be, how you're going to get here safely and get home as well. So welcome to week 3. And as we always say, thank you for being here at Cal State Northridge. Faculty Senate, of course, is coming up on Thursday. Those of you who can be involved, please do so. I, of course, teach during that time. Standing committees with Faculty Senate are gearing up. Many of you all will have an appointment on a faculty standing committee, and you'll get to share the voice and perspective of university students with our faculty. So thank you for that. On the other hand, faculty are also involved in many things that you are involved in. On Friday, the College of Health and Human Development had its own town hall meeting with the provost and Vice President Colin Donahue. And these were, again, great updates on financial status and perspectives of where the university is going. If you are not aware of those things, you may want to look. Unfortunately, predictions of great shortfalls within the state are coming. And what that looks like for you all in terms of faculty hires, investments in different departments, majors, and academic programs is important. So when we ask for your voices on what you think is important in terms of coursework and hires, those things are for real. Those are investments and perspectives that the university wants and needs for who you are now, where you want this university to go in the future. So please respond. Get your constituents, particularly those who are newer, to really become involved with faculty departments, their majors, and where we are going as an institution. Next, I'd just like to do a wrap up for the Paralympics with all of the interest that we have here in this group on DEI. It's really important to think about accessibility and where folks are going. All of you all who have been involved with clubs, organizations, but particularly sports and outdoor activities, to think about how that all comes full circle as a lifetime commitment. And if you watched any of the Paralympics, you'll see people at a variety of ages and life stages. And again, really important, because a lot of times after leaving university, we forget life goes on. And so when we saw individuals playing in the Paralympics who perhaps started at college, university, high school levels and beyond, and still at ages 45 and above are still showcased in our international world of competition. So again, something for us to really invest in and look forward to. Next, I'd like to remind everybody, this is an election year, and that means our United States federal government, for those of you who are interested, eligible, and can be involved in that. So again, I think last week was the first Act Now meeting. Hopefully they will be moving forward to work with you in tabling and other events to make sure that voters those who are eligible to vote and want to be involved in that process can do so. It is now time for fall conferences coming up, so your faculty will be involving you hopefully and letting you know what's going on professionally. And again, we all know that where you start off as undergraduates may not be your career down the road. So again, be aware of conferences, meetings, and workshops that are going to enhance your academic development here as you prepare for your career. And then my last thing is that faculty are also involved in mandatory training. And as Dr. Watkins mentioned, a lot of this has to do with time, place, manner, but bigger safety issues on our campus, how to respond, but for faculty, even us, how to recognize when there is an imminent threat, when something could be happening that may put yourselves or others in danger. And so it is difficult to keep all these things in your mind at one time, but it is important to remember that the manners in which we respond are going to vary depending upon who is initiating the behavior. Okay, so again, lots to think about, but we all want to be here for each other in and beyond the classroom. So some of the mandatory trainings were safety, of course, cybersecurity, and then finally, Title IX. So lots going on early in the beginning of the semester, but just really want you to understand that balance between what you do in your learning and your faculty are a lot of times involved in that as well. Thanks so much and have a great week. Stay cool.
Thank you, Dr. Ward. Is there any questions on the faculty advisors report? Okay, seeing none. Senator Tholow.
Permission to be recognized.
Granted. We can move on to unfinished business. So these are just some of the remaining Senate representatives that we need to appoint to these committees from our last meeting. I will first start by saying, just reminding you all that the process is I will just open up the conversation for each one of them. And you all can just raise your hand, either nominate yourself or nominate someone else. And I will say this right now, I think the only meeting that is set in stone, I think all of these committees plan on meeting every week, but the only meeting that I know is set in stone to some degree is Lobby Corps, which is going to be from Mondays from 1 to 2 p.m. Every other one of the committees, I guess meeting times haven't been decided yet. So hopefully if you were to be appointed to that committee, the meetings would be based off of your availability as well as the other committee members' availability as well. I will first say I would recommend a motion to table judicial court to next week, just because we do not have a chief justice yet, and the chief justice chairs that committee. So if anyone wants to make a motion, that'd be great. Senator Aronson?
I move to table item 1 under 9A. Judicial Court. I move to table that until our next meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Miyoshi. Any discussion? Seeing none. If there are no objections on the motion to table Judicial Court to next week, the motion will pass unanimously. Any objections? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you, Senator Aronson. We'll move on to item 2, which is the Elections Committee. Are there any nominations for the Senate representative for the Elections Committee? I will give a brief description. The Elections Committee works on our elections every year. So the AS elections, the AS/USU elections. So in terms of marketing, in terms of the street team, in terms of planning any voter engagement events. When I say voter engagement, I mean like student engagement events for voting for the AS/USU elections. And the chair right now is Fernesia Lezama, and the assistant chair is Maria Perry, who actually just got onboarded as well. Is there anything else? Can people on the elections, a Senate rep cannot run, right? Okay, so if you become a Senate rep for the committee, you are not able to run in the AS elections for the 2025-2026 year. That's like probably the biggest thing. So if there's any people graduating this year or people that know they're not coming back to CSUN next year, this would be a great opportunity for you, or if you actually just don't plan on coming back to AS. Senator Perez.
I nominate Melanie Nunez for the Elections Committee.
Okay. Senator Nunez, do you accept?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So it'll be Mondays. Oh, wait.
That's lobby core.
Oh,
This meeting hasn't been decided yet. Meeting time hasn't been decided yet.
So then the only thing would be a meeting.
One more time.
The only thing would be like a meeting.
It would be a meeting, and then whatever the chair decides to do, this would also be a part of your office hours. So like you're
Yes.
doing this meeting would be a part of your office hours as well. But the elections committee, a lot of their work is really during the spring.
Yeah.
So it's not as bad right now.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask that.
Mm-hmm.
I accept.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any other nominations for the elections committee? Going once, going twice. You seem like you have an inquiry. Okay, I'm gonna. Yep, Senator Olgan.
I would like to nominate myself for this.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, great. So we have two nominations. First nomination is going to be Senator Nunez, and second nomination is going to be Senator Olgan. Are there any other nominations? Going once, going twice? Great. So, Senator Nunez, did you want to say a spiel? You don't have to. You can if you'd like. Go for it.
So obviously this is new, but I think this would be really helpful with my career and wanting to be in politics and being a political science major and a sociology minor, and also senator for the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences. Elections are something of importance, and I think making sure everything is working properly behind the scenes to get a good leadership is important, and I advocate for that. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Senator Olgan? No? Okay. And then just a reminder again, you cannot run for the AS elections next year if you are on this committee. I just want to put that out there so we all know that I told you guys. Okay. So, great. We'll just be voting. Everyone has to vote. Please remember to vote, because if you don't, that'll be confusing and annoying. Just remember to vote. You can only vote for one person. Or you can abstain. Okay, so raise your hand if you would like to vote for Senator Nunez. Keep them high, keep them high. Did someone just raise their hand up last minute? You didn't? Okay. Okay, now votes for Senator Olgan. That's nice of you. Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. Sorry, everyone. 1 second. Okay. So, the vote count is 10 for Senator Nunez and 1 for Senator Olgan and 2 abstentions. So Senator Nunez, you are the now elections representative, Senate representative. Senator Tran.
Permission to be recognized.
Granted. So, learning experience, Senator Tran was late and he did not ask for permission to be recognized. So technically his votes up until now have not counted. I forgot to, so, but it's, whatever. So we'll move on to the DEI committee. DEI committee has not had a solidified meeting time yet. You can run for the AS elections next year if you want to be in the rest of the committees. And yeah, any Senate reps nominations? Senator Gavino,
I'd like to nominate Senator Toledo Carranza.
do you accept?
I accept.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Senator Pulliam?
I nominate myself.
Thank you. Do you accept? I'm just kidding. Any other nominations? Okay. So we have two nominations on the floor for DEI. It's going to be Senator Toledo Carranza and Senator Pulliam. One moment. Okay. So raise your hand if you, do you want to spiel? You want to say something? You don't have to. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Well, D&I committee is like really hits home. Like I've served in that committee last year and it was a pleasure to be there and work with the committee itself. I love to work with the new chair because he has so many ideas, so many projects that I would love to work along. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So mind you, everyone, really quick, we need to be out of this room by 11:30. Just saying that. Senator Pulliam, do you want to say something?
Yeah, why not? Hello, everybody. You know me, Bella Pulliam, and I nominated myself. I am a deaf studies major, so I want to see if there's stuff like that I could work in. Of course, there's probably also stuff already like that since we do have a deaf member on that committee, which is very exciting. I would like to see all the different things that play out and just take everything I know and put it up. I have a minor in gender women's studies, so I think that's also a cool little equivalent. Whether I win or you win, I am happy with whichever because I know there will be good changes made. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move into the vote. So please raise your hand if you will vote for Senator Toledo Carranza. Now for Senator Pulliam. Abstentions? Thank you so much. The vote is Senator Toledo Carranza with 7, Senator Pulliam with 3, and 4 abstentions. So congratulations, Senator Toledo Carranza. You are the Senate representative for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Fantastic. We'll move on to the Communications Committee. I didn't even say which chair is DEI, sorry. So the chair of the DEI committee is Chair of DEI Omar Joynat, and Communications Committee is going to be led by Chairperson on Communications Uribe, and those meetings have not been solidified yet as well. Are there any nominations? Senator Perez.
I nominate Senator Pulliam.
Thank you. Is there, do you approve? Or accept?
What does the committee do?
So the committee, essentially for all committees, I guess this one in specific, as opposed to planning actual events, because a lot of the other committees are kind of rooted in that, except for judicial court. This committee is more of just assisting the chair in fulfilling any of like the communications aspects from AS leadership. So anything in regard to the marketing part of it. Obviously, Chair Uribe probably has her own plans of like the specific stuff she plans on doing, and in terms of charging the committee with certain things. But in general, the position and the committee works heavily with AS marketing in terms of kind of our branding, in terms of just leadership, and promoting any of the events that you all put on or cabinet members put on. So whenever you need to request any graphics being made or anything being posted on social media, the committee as well as Ruby is kind of there as like the liaison for that. Hit everything right. Ariana and Ruby. That's good. Obviously, if you have more questions, we can ask after. Do you accept?
Yes.
Great. Any other nominations? Oh, this is gonna be easy. Okay, so Senator Pulliam is our only nomination. Do you want to say something? Thank you. Okay, great. And then if there are no objections to Senator Pulliam being the Senate rep, it will pass. Any objections? Great. Congratulations, Senator Pulliam. She is now the Communications Committee Senate rep. Lastly, we'll go on to the Lobby Corps Senate Representative. Are there any nominations? Senator, Aragon.
I would like to nominate Senator Harris.
Great. Senator Harris, do you accept?
Yes,
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Senator Fregoso?
I would like to nominate Senator Aronson.
You don't need to talk that close, but I got you. Senator Aronson, do you accept?
Yes.
Thank you. Senator Gavino?
I'd like to nominate Senator Miyoshi.
Senator Miyoshi, do you accept?
May I ask some questions first?
Can you ask one general question for the interest of time?
What are my duties?
You would be assisting the Chair of Legislative Affairs in any of the initiatives that the chair has. So the chair of this committee is Chair of Legislative Affairs, Saravia. She's actually here as well. So if you have any more questions about specific stuff, she can help you out. Right now, based off of what I know about her and her initiatives right now, it's temporarily going to be surrounded by elections. But in general, Lobby Corps does do a bunch of other stuff in terms of assisting in the promotion of the external parts of what happens outside of CSUN that affects CSUN students. So right now, big focus is on the elections. So kind of just assisting in any way or means possible in terms of spreading the word or tabling or helping with the events and whatnot. It's targeted towards legislative affairs. Do you accept the nomination? I'm gonna give you 3 seconds. I'm just kidding.
Am I allowed to table this until for further discussion, or do I have to give a response now?
You could make the motion to table Lobby Corps Senate Rep to next week, but you would need a second and the motion would have to pass by majority vote.
Okay. I move to table the nomination of the Lobby Corps until next week.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Senator Olgan. Is there any discussion? So if you want to explain your point more, because this would have to be approved by the whole board.
Yeah, well, the main thing is, one, I don't really have a lot of information to go through about the duties and the schedule and the workload of this position, as well as what reason the person nominating me has to believe that I would be a good fit for this position. So I'd like to clarify all those points before I make my decision.
Vice President Khan.
Hi, I would suggest we do not table this just due to the fact that we've had the Senate agenda, actually this motion for 2 weeks now. So we've had the proper time to look into what these responsibilities entail.
Okay.
Senator Wada.
This decision should be made with haste.
Made with haste?
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. Then we can take that to a vote. All in favor of approving, all in favor of tabling the Lobby Corps Senate Rep item to next week, please raise your hand. Senator Hogan approves once. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Senator Miyoshi, you must vote.
Okay, I decline.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So the motion fails. We'll go back to the nomination period. Senator Miyoshi, do you want to accept it? You don't have to.
I will decline.
Okay. So right now we have 2 nominations. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we will move forth with the 2 nominations. The first one being Senator Harris. If you have a spiel, please go ahead.
I would like to be the Senate representative of Lobby Corps because I love working with legislative. When I interned with Brad Sherman, I had worked with his resolution on getting a ceasefire, as well as currently for my personal project, I am working on amending Executive 1043, which works with alcohol and drug policy, and I'm trying to improve and clarify the way it does. And then for tabling purposes, this tabling I tabled for 4 since I'm involved in 6 different organizations, and each one of them I hold a leadership position. And I would love to support the legislative affairs. Ms. Curie has answered all of my questions in depth, and I really am interested in this, and it's something that I would like to be a part of in my career as a legislative assistant or a congressional aide. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Aronson?
Hi, everyone. You all know who I am. I would do a great job in this position. I've already worked and met with Legislative Affairs Chair Kiri Saravia with regard to CSUN Act Now, which I am a part of, which Lobby Corps will work with very closely. I have the connections to make sure that Lobby Corps is the best that it possibly can be. I'm already going to be at many of these tabling events because I'm part of CSUN Act Now. And with this position, I can only make those tabling events more robust and better in every way, shape, and form. So I know that I would do a great job at this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the vote. Please raise your hand if you'd like to vote for Senator Harris. And please raise your hand if you'd like to vote for Senator Aronson. And if you'd like to abstain. Okay, thank you. So Senator Harris has 10 votes, Senator Aronson with 3 and 1 abstention. Congratulations, Senator Harris. All right, we'll move on to new business to approve the following appointment for Linduli Weera Singh for the Communications Committee. Are there any motions on the floor? Senator Aronson?
I move to approve the following appointment.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Gavino. Any discussion on the approval of this Communications Committee member? Seeing none, we can take it to a vote. All in favor of approving Linduli Weera Singh for the Communications Committee, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. This passes unanimously. We will move past information and discussion items into legislative referrals. So now I'm reading these off, and now whatever referrals I read off will be assigned to committees starting next week. So the first referral is from Senator Gavino, titled Student Housing Representative for Senate Standing Committee. The request is to be more aware and responsive to the needs and concerns of student residents, and member of the Residence Halls Association, Executive Board, or other RHA designated representative should be invited to serve as an ex officio member of a Senate Standing Committee meeting. It was suggested to Internal Affairs or University Affairs. I will send it to Internal Affairs. Our next referral is by Senator Miyoshi, titled Display Pronouns in quote Meet Your Leaders page. A request to have our pronouns be displayed in the quote Meet Your Leaders page on the CSUN AS website, and he has the Meet Your Leaders link also put on the website. I will hold this referral just because we actually just have the capability of doing that. So Denise has already kind of gotten that started because obviously we see value in that. So I will not assign this to committee for that reason. Okay, we'll go on to the next referral from Senator Gavino. Parking availability signs. Parking structures B5 and G6, among others, have digital monitors that display the amount of parking spaces available in the structure. These displays should be added at other parking structures as entrances and or lots on campus, especially those with the most in and out traffic at peak hours. Doing so would allow drivers to make a decision about entering a parking structure based on their schedule and stop the common issue of driving into and around an unknowingly full structure or lot. This has been suggested to University Affairs, and I will send it to University Affairs. Next, legislative referral from Senator Miyoshi, mid-semester feedback survey. A request to establish a survey directed to each one of our constituents for general feedback toward the members responsible for representing them, either in division or college. This has been suggested to Internal Affairs. I will send it to Internal Affairs. Senator Aronson, next legislative referral from Senator Aronson, titled The Better Campus Food Act. The request is there is a clear issue with food on our campus. Not only are there few healthy options, but all options available are expensive to a point which is unrealistic for college students. For a campus which is often seen as affordable, this issue with food goes against this image. The contracts that our campus has with food companies is clearly not done with the best interest of the students in mind. If our tuition is getting increased, then it's important that students see some of this money come back to them through strong resources. Therefore, our campus ought to re-enter contract negotiations with the food companies on our campus and demand lower prices. It is important that our students have real food in their bellies, not just what is available at vending machines, so that they can learn and meet their true potential. This has been suggested to University Affairs, and I will send that to University Affairs. Our last legislative referral is from Senator Toledo Carranza, titled Increased Number of Lobby Corps Members. Given the importance, actually, it's not the last legislative referral, I think. The request is, given the importance of the election year and the impact of legislation on higher education and civic engagement, it is essential to expand the Lobby Corps Committee. The current voting membership of 4 should be increased to between 6 to 8 members. This expansion would not only enable more freshmen and first-year transfer students to join associated students, but also ensure a fair distribution of the workload, as the committee's responsibilities extend beyond just advocacy matters. This has been suggested to Internal Affairs, and I will send it to Internal Affairs. Give me 1 second. I think I saw one more. Denise, am I missing one? I am. Give me 1 second. I just have to find it. Oh. Did I not file this correctly? What the hell? I think I'm missing 2 then, because this is not even the one I was thinking of. So this legislative referral, sorry everyone for the inconvenience. I don't know. This is my first time reading legislative referrals too. The next legislative referral was submitted by Vice President Khan, titled Committee Eligibility for Freshmen and Transfers. The request is to open up our committee involvement and eligibility for individuals that do not have CSUN GPAs, which includes our first-time freshmen and transfer students. This has been suggested to Internal Affairs, and I will send it to Internal Affairs. I don't know where it. This makes it easy. I'm just on the Cognito website now. So our last referral was submitted by Senator Toledo Carranza, titled Interview Process Change. The request is to add and change the language of the code in the Chair of Personnel and Communications of the interview process of Senate applicants, as well as adding and changing the language in the Chair of Personnel and Communications and committee chairs' codes regarding the interview process of committee members. This has been suggested to Internal Affairs, and it will go to Internal Affairs. Thank you so much. So that is all of our legislative referrals. Thank you all for submitting those legislative referrals. Great amount to start off the year with. Please keep submitting legislative referrals. That's the only way that we can really do tangible work here. But we will move on to announcements. Please keep them insanely brief. We have to go. Senator Pulliam.
So I signed up for an OA trip, pretty cool, referring to what Tim was saying. I did go to and table at the Welcome to the Humanities event. And then also in thinking about the time, I did go to the VICA luncheon. If you guys have any questions or are curious about it, please let me know and I could talk more about it.
Thank you, Senator Pulliam. Any other announcements? Senator Toledo Carranza.
Okay. So last week we had our first sport clubs council meeting. It went great. It went amazing. I look forward with working with all sport clubs representatives and just sport clubs in general. So yeah. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Senator Aragon.
So, they reached out to me in order to table Raza Heritage Month, celebrating nuestra gente y comunidad. So if someone is interested in tabling the welcome event and the closing event, let me know and we can arrange that.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Senator Aronson.
Just quickly, Chair of Legislative Affairs, Shirabi, and I have both been selected as Lead California Youth Voice Youth Vote fellows, and we're very excited about that.
Congratulations. It's great work. Any other announcements? Senator Miyoshi.
I am officially now a tutor for Introduction to Logic and Formal Logic for philosophy-related courses.
Congrats. Any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll take this to our final roll call with Government Secretary Moss.
Vice President Khan.
Here.
Senator Aronson.
Here.
Senator Gavino.
Here.
Senator Heminiano.
Here.
Senator Harris.
Here.
Newly Senator Kovenia.
Here.
Senator Miyoshi.
Here.
Senator Nunez.
Here.
Senator Olgan.
Here.
Senator Perez.
Here.
Senator Pulliam.
Here.
Senator Weda.
Here.
Senator Radionov. Senator Toledo Carranza.
Here.
Senator Tran. Thank you.
Thank you. I adjourn this meeting at 11:36 a.m.